He's back at home trying to show Toby the powers of the amulet, while this Rod Wave supporter is making some to eat, obviously. Talking about he on a diet, but he has a slice of pizza in his hand. I bet there was lettuce on that sandwich that Jim gave him. He not slick. But the amulet works, and he shows off the armor to Topes. Dude, you've got to use this to help all mankind. Yo, that's what they said. Yes, let's go rob an old lady. Wait, hold up, they? And that's when Blinky barges through the door alongside Arg. They're trying to convince Jim to become the troll hunter and fight trolls. But Jim ain't really trying to spend his teenage years with responsibilities. That word J-O-B is already censored from his vocabulary. They're talking about this at school when they realize that the amulet is tweaking. So they rush into the locker room and he ends up suited up in armor and doesn't know why. But Strickler was outside spying on them. He's watching these minors very closely. Walking into the locker room, not even paying attention to Toby. Turning the corner and seeing Jim posing under the sunlight. Looking up, staring into the distance. That sunlight got him feeling like me, Marlon, and Duke Dennis. But he tries to play it off by saying he's auditioning for Romeo and Juliet. Obviously, Strickler knows he's a troll hunter, but Jim doesn't know that he knows. So now Jim has to rush to the auditions to try and make it seem like he wasn't bullshitting. This girl Claire comes over to talk to Jim, impressed by his armor. And he's trying to focus and act nonchalant for his crush. And I ain't gonna lie, he did pretty good. Claire even walked over to him and placed her hand on his armor. Shit gon' have fingerprints on it now, but Jim ain't care. He's geeked. But Strickler saw that and got to hating. Called up Bular expeditiously. So when Jim is talking about all this with Toby on their way home, they turn the corner and see bro mean mugging them, balling up his fists and getting on all fours. I don't think he's right in the head. Look at him over there wilding. But luckily he can't attack them because of the sun. But the problem is the sun is setting as they speak. No, please! I need that vitamin D. But they get moving and manage to hide behind a car, trying to buy some time to equip the armor. But all of a sudden the amulet seems like it came from Sheen. It refuses to work. Bular found them and lifted up the truck. He could have just walked around, but he's always doing the most. They hop on the bikes and hit the dash, having to evade the truck that's about to crush them. This man Toby even hit a wheelie and said, "You're too slow!" Sprinting down the road and turned down an alleyway. But you know Toby is horizontally challenged, so he was struggling to fit and had to really squeeze through the small space. And they finally meet up with Blinky and Arg. What's with that big nigga? You can fight him, right? Nope. What about Bruce Banner over here? Pacifist. So you're useless. And Bular comes around the corner hitting a mean drift. So they all run away and end up back at the bridge. And Jim decides to take out the amulet and give it another try. Standing there, placing all his chips on red. This $1.50 better hit for 5 mil. And when Bular goes for the punch, the armor spawns in to block him. And Jim lands down hitting a tough pose. And holding the heavy ass sword, moving like guts. Bular is staring him down with that Hall of Fame intimidator. So Jim says, "Oh no! Mom! Help!" But Bular cuts him off, asking him why he's running. Grown ass troll running after me. What do you mean why I'm running? So Jim has to fight back, hold on to the sword and swings at Bular, knocking them both back. Blinky told them to open the portal, toss the key, and Arg opened the door to Trollmarket. Master Jim, come on, let's go! Blinky got 6 eyes and can't seem to see that Jim is out there fighting one of Thanos' minions. Dodges the swing and goes for the head, but gets blocked. Bular had to open back his eyes, appalled that Jim even tried that shit. Picked him up and threw the sword away. And by the time he looked back down, Jim was long gone. Bro ain't wait around to find out. The second he lost his weapon, he said GG's. Look at him. He ain't built for this. And to make it worse, the power of the amulet turns off. So he almost got shish kebabbed by Bular's swords. But now Jim and Toby find their way into Trollmarket. Blinky is showing them around, but everyone is wondering why they've got humans in their home. This one troll called Droll pushes through, asking Blinky who these greasy-haired children are. You ain't gonna believe this, twin. But he's the troll hunter. You need to leave! Jim had to pull out the amulet and show everyone that he's the chosen one. Y'all ain't special like me. But Droll is still pissed cause he's the son of the troll hunter that got embarrassed by Bular. the one that literally died like 3 days ago. So Droll is saying that he's the rightful heir of the amulet. But we all know that the amulet ain't want his ass. He even tried taking it himself, but got blasted away. And Droll decided to go snitch to Vendel. Ain't no one worried about that. Jim gets shown the Hero's Forge, which is the arena that the troll hunter practices in. And while Blinky is explaining the importance of the troll hunter, Tobes said, why is it that the troll hunter doesn't kill you guys if you're also trolls? And Blinky explained that nah, you only fight the Gum-Gums, the evil trolls that were exiled into the Dark Lands. Bular is one of them, and he is using his freedom to try and get the amulet to break out his dad, Gunmar, and the other Gum-Gums from the Dark Lands. But don't worry, you can't miss them, they're black. And Blinky starts up the death traps and claims that he's trying to help them train, until he heard Vendel walk through. Droll really did snitch, that damn Skylander. Vendel insists on meeting the human troll hunter and made him do a paternity test. Said, we've got to make sure you are the father. Put your hand in the machine and we'll see if you're worthy. But the test came back inconclusive, so Vendel wasn't amused. Jim gets back home and turns around the corner just to see Strickler. How you doing, Jim? Bro was alone in the house with my mom. What you mean how I'm doing? And then he kissed her hand on the way out too. But if I were to chop off his lips, I would be wrong. Even Bular was waiting outside, asking Strickler why he ain't put little bro down. But Strickler is saying that the time isn't right. While Jim's mom is asking if Strickler is single, we then see Jim actually training for once until Droll walks in with his little legs. This man must hate leg day, built like DDG. He cut off his dreads to try and distract us from the fact that he has toothpicks instead of calves. Vendel hears that Droll wants to spar with the troll hunter, so he says to fight. So Droll charges in, rolling like a bowling ball, gets dodged, and uses the wall to... Oh! Cleats? Trying to end Jim's whole career. Man couldn't even see through the dust. He's looking the complete wrong direction and gets launched. He's holding his ribs, stumbling around, caught a right, then a left, got picked up delicately, and hit with an uppercut of despair. Even the sword said, adios, mi amigo, and Droll started holding Jim over the edge, before deciding to let him live, and told him to give up. Had Vendel shaken his head, so Jim went back home pissed, and the next day in school, he gets pressed by Steve asking for a fight. At first, Jim wasn't gonna do none, but once he saw his crush, Claire, looking at him, he got up and hit that Superman pose. Gets pushed into a locker, makes him punch metal, and bro hit that gosh darn it, before looking for his father. Don't worry, he's over there somewhere, Steve. Tries to grab him, punches the locker again, and is really just out there trying to collect the carbon dioxide. Misses 3 more punches like a fool, and rocks Jim in his jaw. Jim was on all fours, hearing the amulet speak to him like the Green Goblin mask. But he said he don't need upgrades. Looked Steve in the face and told him he's ass. Claire tried to get between them. Move, woman! No! Had Jim holding out his hand, he couldn't let that slide. Locked up his fist and made Steve even stupider. Laid him out and knocked out his tooth. Jim got so confident, he went back to Trollmarket and pressed Droll. Told him to name a time and a place we boxin'. So Blinky starts teaching Jim about the troll hunter lore. But bro isn't interested at all. He's got schoolwork to worry about. And that's when this lady comes running in, feet stomping. Said gnomes are loose in the market. Even started begging Jim. Look, woman, call an exterminator. This is below my pay grade. But when the gnome wanted to help Toby lose some weight and stole his snack, that's when it messed up. Shouldn't have took a Rod Wave supporter's food. And it also took Jim's amulet. So when the gnome ran into its cave to hide, Blinky decides to shrink Jim down to Stuart Little size and told him to get the amulet back. And when he turned the corner, the gnome saw him and rushed towards him. So he pushed them off, grabbed the pencil, and Lil Rose got them chompers. What the shit? Chucked the pencil at its face, and long story short, he got back his amulet and made friends with the gnome, calling him Gnome Chomsky. Gave him the worst name of all time. But while they were out there bullshitting, Bular was close to building Killahead Bridge, the pathway that was going to help bring Gunmar back from the other side. We see Jim back training, trying to prepare for his fight with a Droll, who walks past him showing off the size difference. 8 foot tall, 550 pounds of pure upper body strength and no legs. Their school goes to the museum and he's only paying attention to Claire. Bro's missed about 50 rehearsals for the Romeo and Juliet play. He can't lose his girl. But Toby tells Jim that there's a problem and the team goes to check it out, seeing that there was a goblin that was ran over. The delivery driver who ran him over is about to be reunited with the green blob on the road. Cause when a goblin gets killed, the rest of the pack hunts down the killer. Look at them, band of savages swarming the truck. I'd rather walk into a bus full of roadmen. But while they're fighting the goblins, Toby loses his tracker and is disappointed now. But Jim shows him that they can still track it. So they decided to follow the signal and find the goblins heading into the museum. And when they sneak in, they see the museum lady who is still there. So they try coming up with a plan. But Tobe said, hold up, looked around the corner and saw the lady transform into a troll. And bro started selling the bag like my friend in basketball, doing straight nonsense. He got to stuttering and saying that she's ugly. So Jim is like, bro, maybe it's just the lighting. Nigga, the lighting? So right now they've got both goblins and an evil lady troll to worry about. But Toby's phone went off and that's when she snuck up into the screen. And you see how Jim is looking at her? It was indeed not the lighting. They try to run off and trip, and that's when Jim pulls out the amulet. But she stops the attack with ease, flipping Jim onto his face. Tobes thought the 5 push-ups a month were doing some, so his confidence was through the roof, but got put on his ass. Jim got back up, hit that swing, oh shit, no way you just scratched me, and was racking up the misses, straight air balls, until he landed a hit and cut her finger. She upped the difficulty on him, pulled out 2 swords, and by the time I blinked, he was rolling like a bowling ball, shaking his noggin. Stood back up just to do it again. You see, me personally, I'm calling it quits. You telling me I can't just retire and give the amulet to someone else? But Jim manages to trip her up and makes her fall onto a goblin that's standing behind her, and they put on the mustache and get to attacking her, giving Jim and Toby enough time to run out of the museum. And after about 1 kilometer, they get caught by the police. And tell me why Strickler pulled up to the police station with Jim's mom. But Toby took a pic of the bridge that Bular is trying to build. So Jim tells Tobes that this is bad news. They're trying to free Gunmar. Bular really on the gram, talking about some free bro, he ain't do nothing wrong. When his rap sheet is 25 pages long and the calmest crime that he committed was murder. Keep his ass behind bars, please. They tell Blinky and Arg about the situation and they say that she's a changeling. Back up gang, my bad twin. They be calling anybody twin nowadays. But a changeling is a being that takes the place of a living human and can change between human and trolls. But Jim still has to fight Droll. So Jim is saying, damn, this is a bad time. Let's postpone the fight. Oh nah, you a bitch. So that ain't work. So Jim goes home and starts writing letters to Claire, his mom, and Toby, explaining that he's a troll hunter and he's writing these letters because he's about to get Swiss cheesed by an ugly blue troll named Droll. Bro has no faith in himself. Gather around everyone. The troll hunter is about to be murked by one of our own. Make sure to film this bit in 4K. Droll pulls up, rolling in, posing for the crowd, while Arg is putting his hand on Jim's shoulder. Goodbye, buddy. And Jim gets ready to fight for his life. Moving in, getting chased down by Droll, grabbed by the toes and tossed into a wall. This man Droll was trolling, not even taking him serious. Bro threw the sword at him and got it smacked with straight disrespect. Even hit the little highlight on him, that slow-mo in the air, to crush him and leave his body imprinted into the dirt. Picked him back up, punched him and made him twirl onto another level. And by the time he got up top, this man Droll was already there, showing nothing but teeth. He's having the time of his life beating up a child. But Jim was just waiting for his moment. The second he got the chance, he kicked Droll in the balls and disappeared before his very eyes, hiding in his blind spot. You know them buff gym bros can't even scratch their back, let alone see behind themselves. So he used that to his advantage and used the weapons from the arena to send Droll to the edge of the map. But Jim decided not to kill Droll and let him live. And after that long day of trying to get home safely, he walks through the front door just to see Namora, the changeling from the museum. If I was Jim, I would have slapped my mom. Stop letting people in the house! But Namora did her little Bill Cosby act and slipped some in his mom's drink, so she was knocked out. And when Jim tried to run to get the amulet, he got snatched and thrown to the kitchen, having to try and fight off an evil troll in his own home. Once again, mother, stop letting people in the house! He had to lock himself in the bathroom while she hunted him down, whistling a devious tune straight out of a horror movie. And somehow, the amulet spawned in the bathroom. Took a while. I've been trying to stay alive, by the way. But Jim opens the door and runs down the hall to see that Namora is fighting Droll outside the house, telling her to go home, leave the troll hunter alone. She ain't listened though, and got her ass hit with that Hulk versus Loki and tossed into the abyss, even calling her a slur and spitting on the ground, turning to Jim and saying that he's here to protect him. Appreciate you, twin, but why did I have to beat you in front of a crowd before you understood that you're beneath me? I already flexed the amulet. How much more proof do I need? And Droll decides to live in the basement of the house. They all go back to the museum so they can show Vendel the killer head bridge that Bular is building, to show the old man that it's not just a myth. Only problem is the bridge is no longer there. Jim was even like, yo Tobes, show him the picture. Well, the picture was blurry for real. Who's to say that it was even a bridge and not a donut? So pretty much, he was too busy thinking about food instead of taking a good pic. And the next day at school, Jim is panicking, cause he has to face Claire, who he gave a letter to. But she's telling Jim that he needs to stop skipping rehearsals. Ain't nobody care about Shakespeare and his gibberish. And later, she asks him to come by her house to study. You already know Jim was geeked. He was not trying to study shit. Anyways, Blinky goes to the troll shop to get Jim and Toby a horseshoe made of pure iron, and tells them that they can tell if someone is a changeling if they touch them with the horseshoe. So they're just going around touching everyone with it, and Toby gets the idea to use it on Strickler, throwing it at his feet. Can you pass it back, sir? Nah, I'm not trying to dirty the fit. And Claire comes through, picking it up instead, ruining the whole plan, and passes it back to Jim. And while Jim and Claire go back to her house to study, Toby decides to use the horseshoe on his dentist, before his assistant takes it out of his hand, and it turns out that she injected Toby with a paralyzer to prevent him from running away cause she's a changeling. But Blinky and Arg knew that Toby was going to be causing problems on the street, so they followed him and popped down. Step back, auntie. And they started running around the place just making a mess. Tobes even called Jim and told him to pull up, and he got over there and got his first kill, getting rid of the changeling. Jim and Toby find themselves looking at Vespas. Jim is about to be going a grand total of 15 kilometers an hour down the highway, but that's when he sees a goblin holding a baby. So he tries to chase after it, but loses sight of the goblin and picks up a stuffed bunny that was left behind. They go back to school where Jim has this stuffed bunny. He's trying to figure out who it belongs to, just to find out that it belongs to Claire's little brother. So now he's realizing that the goblin stole Claire's little brother Enrique to replace it with a changeling. Luckily though, the baby has to be kept alive while the changeling takes its place. But Jim gets the bright idea to babysit Enrique for Claire. So he shows up to her house to babysit, and in no time loses sight of the baby. So he calls over Toby to help out. He's trying to put a horseshoe on little bro's forehead. And when he finally manages to do it, Enrique changes into a changeling and trashes the whole house. But when they all gather and manage to capture him, they start questioning him about the bridge. And this little nigga got the snitching immediately. Ain't even have to offer him a bag of chips. It's now Jim's birthday, and Toby is telling him to put down the ugly blender his mom got him and go to Trollmarket. And it turns out that it was a surprise party, but Vendel shut it down real quick. We don't do happiness around here, bro. Strickler makes his way to Bular and finds a skill on the ground, realizing that Bular summoned a stalkling to go after Jim. I thought that we agreed not to do this. We? Nigga, back up. Toby helps Jim get a test drive of his dream Vespa for his birthday. Jim needs to dream bigger. A Vespa is insanity. But when he's out riding, he looks up and sees the winged creature trying to take off his head, and he's just wondering.
Floyd said, fuck T.I., fuck Nelly, fuck 50. I'm like, what do you say fuck me for?
Having to pull out the armor to strike away the Stalkling. So he goes underground and is panicking, saying that a big creature with wings was chasing him. So Vendel explains that it's a Stalkling, and they're one of the only species of troll that can survive in daylight. And they don't stop chasing you until you're dead. So your best bet is to always have someone by your side. I would have stayed underground for eternity. It's not like I enjoy going to school anyway. But nah, this man Jim was with Claire after the rehearsal of the play, and he was mad scared that he was about to be left alone. When Claire's parents came to pick her up, he was like, wait! And even tried asking her parents for a ride. Use them legs, bro, chacho. So he had to ride his bike and get to speeding. Even called up Tobes and asked for backup. Little does he know though, the Stalkling was on timing. Snatching him into the air, he had to use the amulet and try to cut the Stalkling down. But the Stalkling started passing him around, playing with his food. The only plan that Jim could come up with to end the fight was to use his sword to conduct the lightning through his body onto the Stalkling, shocking both of them. And Org went ahead and caught Jim from out the sky, while the Stalkling fell to its death. So now Jim is nervous about a kissing scene he has to do with Claire for the play. So he's talking about it with Droll, who tells him to get a specific totem that when you wear it, it gets rid of your fear. So he's walking around the whole school feeling himself crazy, about to get a haircut and be outside for absolutely no reason. While Strickler is walking towards the bridge, witnessing the last piece it needs be placed. And Gunmar's silhouette is seen from the other side. So you know Gunmar is rubbing his hands. Jim on the other hand is still wearing the totem and runs into the sewers to look for Bular, trying to show him the gains and chop off his head. Walking around calling for Bular, saying to come outside. Turning the corner and Bular shows himself at last. You ready to get reunited with Norman Osborn? Y'all gonna be together looking up at me succeed in life. Jim goes in, hitting him to the side, then missing like 10 swings. He not doing none for real, getting pushed back and dodges the next attack, running and cutting Bular on the face. Bro couldn't believe the disrespect. You try to make my face even uglier? And hit him with the devious backhand, making him land on his back. And when he gets up holding his head, he realizes that the totem is gone and sees Bular crush it beneath his crusty toes. Ah! Hold up! Bular! Chill, Brody! But Toby was up on the street trying to help Jim, managing to lift up the manhole cover and let sunlight into the sewer, preventing Bular from attacking him. And that's when Bular called Jim Young Atlas, a term only Strickler ever calls Jim. So Jim did the math and realizes that not only was Strickler trying to sleep with his mom, but he was a changeling also trying to backdoor him. And Jim hits the backflip, put the Tims on the sword, and launches himself up towards Toby to get free. And Bular tells Strickler that he spilled the beans and called Jim Young Atlas. Why would you do that, fool? I told him to. Oh, my fault, twin. So now Strickler tells Jim that his mom invited him over for dinner. So now Jim is planning to jump him with help from Droll hiding in the basement, telling him that when he taps his foot 2 times, Droll has to spawn upstairs to turn Strickler into dog food. Strickler comes over and the tension between him and Jim is high. They trying to wait for the opportunity to end one another. Jim's mom leaves to go to the kitchen, and that's when Jim and Strickler pick up the knives, and Jim started cheesing and hit 2 stomps. But Droll was busy having to worry about Claire that was messing up the plan. So Jim was on his own, having to try and fight off Strickler without his mom noticing, even showing off his troll form and thinking he could have robbed niggas. Went through the bag looking for the amulet and said ain't no way it's not here, give me the bling, choking him out. But Jim pulled out the gear. Jim is still showing off the moves, making it known he was chosen for a reason, jumping onto the chandelier and kicking Strickler in the jaw, go sleep, and took him hostage, whispering, where is the bridge? But his mom walked in and spoiled it all. And Strickler found the amulet hidden under the couch and replaced it with a fake, and proceeded to bring it to the spot to use it to finish building the bridge. Bular took it from him because he wanted all the glory, but ended up just looking like a fool because it didn't work. So he said, hey yo bro, it ain't work. Brodesky, chill, it only works by the hand of the Trollhunter. And he chucks Strickler to the wall. Let's get the Trollhunter this instant. We see not Enrique back home where he got into a fight with a goblin. The problem is, he killed it. And some other goblins pulled up thinking that Claire is the one who murked him. So they're going after her. The team are back at Toby's place, figuring out a plan, and that's when Bro came knocking at the window. Explains that goblins are pissed off. I'ma kill you! Relax! They think Claire did it. We're safe. Oh hell no! And Jim took the amulet and sprinted. So Claire is in trouble and Jim is also being hunted, cause he's needed to complete the bridge. So Jim makes his way to Claire's house, where he sneaks in, putting his hands all over her, telling her to follow him. Unhand me, nigga! Personal space! So now Jim is trying to tell her the truth and explain that he's the Trollhunter, but he ain't know that the amulet is a fake. So he tells her to check her brother's room. He's been taken. And they get to escaping through the back door, where Jim has to fight off a horde of goblins. And during the fight is when he realizes that the amulet is fake.
I knew it.
So he calls for the real one, and it flies all the way over to its rightful owner, and gave Jim the ultimate lob. All of a sudden, when Claire is around, the suit up is in slow motion, and he gets rid of all the goblins. But then they hear Death's whistle. Someone is in the forest lurking. And that's when Nomura drops down, ready to chop someone's head off. She started pressing him and going for the kill off a rip. But he threw his sword, that gets blocked, and you might think that he was being a dumbass and just threw away his only weapon. But he's able to call it back to his hand and tries to show the world that this is a mismatch, and ends up getting flipped. Toby is trying to find him to help while he's out there fighting for his life. How did she even end up in the tree? Falling down and just spamming the blades and sending him for a little slide into the distance, and 2 foot kicking him into a tree, wanting to stretch for the amulet, cause without it he's got no badges. And she knocks him out and starts dragging his face across the muddy grass. But she had to leave him there and run away cause there were too many people showing up to help him. And when he woke up, he was in the hospital with straight CTE. And to make it worse, this man Blinkus decided to go ahead and find the location of the bridge with no backup. So his ass got grabbed by Bular and was held for ransom. And the second he checked out the hospital, he makes his way to Strickler to save Blinky. And Bular is telling him to stop chatting and open the bridge. But it was all part of the plan. Jim was wearing a tracking device that led the rest of the team to his location. Bular got mad and tried to end Jim for good. And Drawl couldn't have Bro getting all the glory. So he rolled up on Bular and told him his bread stinks. While Toby ran up and hit Strickler in the nuts. Had him laying there for a cool little minute. Even after they saved Blinky, Jim swung back down and got told to take a seat by Strickler, picking him up by the neck and using his own hand to rip out the amulet and place it onto the bridge. And that's when Drawl goes ahead and gets the idea to get his highlight moment, ripping out the amulet from the bridge, which leaves the bridge in pieces, and Drawl loses his right hand in the process. And they all jump into the sewer to try and escape. Only problem was that Bular was on their heels, hawking them down, finding Jim and palming him out the sewer, then spawning behind him under the canal bridge. This man is so extra. He starts it off with a kick, and Jim ain't even trying to box for real. Bro is trying to run away, but comes to his senses and takes out the sword, blocking Bular trying to fend him off, and gets punted back and almost gets stomped out. Luckily though, the sun is still out, so Bular's movements are limited. He gets a block, weave, and climbs onto his sword and slashed his back before hiding under his feet, thinking he has that high level IQ. His ass is not Einstein, going for the sneak attack and gets one hand grabbed straight out the air. But Jim hit that switcheroo, kicked him and said, "You forgot this hand," and cut him again. And damn, hit him so hard he started squirming and hitting the jets to get out of there. And now he's holding on for dear life before getting his neck crushed and slammed to concrete. Jim is there screaming his heart out and gets the idea to take off the armor, to slip out and put it back on, to use the sword to stab Bular through the chest and make him go for a little spin. Everyone is celebrating on top of the bridge, seeing that Jim is mighty tough. Even Drawl was glazing. until Bular showed back up half dead. Arg had to stop his hand, and all of a sudden, bro ain't one of them Pacific Oceans anymore. Decided he was no longer vegan, he wants beef, and completely crushed Bular, turning him to dust.